What is up, my friends? How are we? You are very welcome along to a show that shouldn't be happening, but the country is awash with positivity right now, and I wanted to come on and just share some of my own excitement. Of course, you know what I'm speaking about. Ireland qualified for the World Cup playoffs today, which, look, I'm not the biggest international football fan, no problem admitting that, but I tell you what, I can see the impact this has already had on my fellow countrymen and women. And yes, there's a playoff to go. We ain't there yet, but you can feel the buzz in my country already. It's incredible. And I would be a liar if I said that it hasn't impacted me today in a positive way. It very much has. Troy Parrott, well, what can you say? A hat-trick away from home against Hungary. They've already renamed Dublin Airport Troy Parrott International Airport, and I ain't joking. Just have a look at the Dublin Airport Twitter account. I know it's only temporary, but look, wow. Wow, I'm buzzing, and I wanted to come on tonight and just share some of my positivity with you guys. And of course, we'll talk about all things Liverpool tonight. We'll talk about KONATE. We'll talk about Dominic Szoboszlai and his contract. We'll talk about Adam Wharton. We'll talk about lots of other bits and pieces. But any of my Irish viewers watching, I hope that you are feeling as upbeat as I am right now. Because let's be honest, we could do with something to smile about in Ireland at the minute. It's been a grim last few years, so fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Wish us well in the playoffs anyway. Right, ladies and gents, let's get stuck in. Great to be here with you all. I hope you had a lovely weekend. I know I wasn't supposed to be streaming tonight, but I just couldn't not come on with the result earlier on as well. Because it was the way it happened, right? It was the way it happened. Did not expect it at all. 2-1 down. Get back the equaliser, and then 96th minute, Troy Parrott somehow manages to get his studs to the ball and put it in the back of the net. Obviously, commiserations to Milos Kerkez, Dominic Szoboszlai. If we hadn't have made the playoffs, I genuinely would have been happy for our Hungarian friends and, of course, any Hungarian viewers. But, you know, I hope it's the same way around. I can understand the heartbreak there, no doubt feeling. But, yeah, look, I'm buzzing as an Irish person. Right, Adzer. Craig, how's the form? Come on, Ireland. You'll never beat the Irish. I'm on it. Honestly, it's just, let's be honest. You think back to the start of the week. You've got Portugal coming to Dublin, and then you've got a trip over to Hungary. You think if you can get anything out of one of those two games, you'll take it. To win both of them, to beat Portugal 2-0, and then to see the lads go over to an incredible arena over there, the Puskás Arena, and do it the way they did it. They've got to back it up now, of course, and make sure that they get through in the playoff, and Italy could await and some other difficult ties there. But yeah, look, for my country, for the people that do, I know so many Irish football fans that go home and away that have gone through the really barren years we've had, and I'm happy for them more than anybody else tonight. I really am. Right, Josh, how are we, dude? Said congrats to Ireland, love from Canada. Thank you, sir. The only question is now, if we do qualify, do we have to rename the channel? You know, Ireland Agenda throughout the summer for the World Cup. Hint, yes, we do. And will we get over to a game? Well, you never know. You just never know. Right, so let's get going with some of the news tonight. I want to start off with something we haven't yet covered. So earlier on today, we put out a video and we covered some of the news topics, but I want to just get into a story about Trent in a moment, if I may. What was this one? Ireland will beat Italy 2-0. Well, we don't know who we're playing yet. But look, there are some difficult teams in that playoff. I've seen somebody ask, did I enjoy the boxing? I did. I really, really did. Like, I won a nice few quid on it. But it wasn't really a competitive fight, let's be honest. It wasn't, you know. I don't know if it was the weight drain or whatever it was. Look, I thought Conor Benn was going to do it anyway. I had 2 bets on. One of them was a knockout from Conor Benn, as I told you guys about during the week. And then I had another one that was an accumulator with a football bet on it, just for Conor Benn to win, and that paid out nicely. Would have been lovely if he could have got the stoppage at the end. But honestly, I just felt happy for Conor Benn. I felt happy for his family. And what an incredible night. There was 50 Cent walking out. Chris Eubank Jr., I mean, anybody that went to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium certainly got themselves a great show, and it's good to see boxing on the up and up. Right, let's get stuck into it. Somebody said Craig Parrott was the first ever Irish player to score a hat-trick away from home. I didn't know that, Ella, but of course, you know your Irish football better than me, Ella, so yeah, delighted with that one. And look, he's going down in folklore now, Troy Parrott in Irish history, as they said on the commentary. I think it was Darren Maloney said, you know, they'll be building a statue in Sheriff Street already, and I wouldn't say they're too far wrong. Right, Ben didn't let Eubank get going at all. No, he didn't. Now look, I want to give Chris Eubank credit there as well, because I thought Chris Eubank was classy after the fight. You know, didn't want to detract from Conor Benn's victory. And I want to just say that, you know, I'm not Chris Eubank Jr.'s biggest fan, but I thought he was an absolute gent, taking the loss the way he did, and fair play to him. Right, let's keep going. Let's get into the trend story that I was going to talk about. So, again, this comes from a Spanish publication, El Nacional, but you can see straight away the type of viciousness that we're talking about in the Spanish media. So this piece here said, Trent Alexander-Arnold is becoming increasingly uneasy about his situation at Real Madrid and feels that Xabi Alonso misled him with the assurances he gave during their initial talks in the summer. Now, I have no idea if that story is true or not, but here's the thing. You could have spoken to any number of Liverpool fans in the summer before Trent moved, and even if you take out our hurt from it, the genuine opinion, and I mean this sincerely because I'm one of these opinions, was that it wasn't going to work for Trent over in Madrid. And it's got nothing to do with whether he's good enough or not. It just was never going to happen. It was never going to be a natural fit. And he isn't the type of character that is outward enough and outspoken enough to really make his presence felt in Madrid, and particularly in that dressing room. So even taking apart the fact from, you know, it hurt us as Liverpool fans that he moved, genuinely, hand on heart, never felt like that was a move that was going to work. And I said it multiple times, not begrudging him, not belittling him. It just never felt like the right move. It felt like somebody had gotten in his ear. It really did to me as a Liverpool fan, and sold him the vision, and that he believed it. And I think, you know, he will knuckle down and try to prove people wrong. But ultimately, it's no surprise to me that it hasn't worked out as of yet. Because it is his first season over there. And like we speak about our players settling in here, like Wirtz and stuff. But the difference is, he won't get time over there before the fans are on his back. He won't get time before the white handkerchiefs are out. But, you know, the grass isn't always greener, as they say. Right, let's keep going. A bit of an interview with Dominic Szoboszlai after the game, where he was interviewed, and the interviewer asked, how much does your heart hurt right now? Dominic Szoboszlai said, very. Interviewer, can it be analysed at all? Szoboszlai, no. Interviewer, is football just that unfair sometimes? Szoboszlai, it looks like it, yes. They did seem quite nervous whenever Ireland got back into the game. And Szoboszlai, let's be honest, he was the best player on the park outside of Troy Parrott, and ran the show. As an Irish fan, every time I seen Dom on the ball, I was nervous because it looked like he was going to make something happen. So I do obviously hope that he can get past the obvious pain that he's feeling. Same with Milos Kerkez, because we need those guys firing and ready to go for what is, I won't say an easy period for Liverpool, but I'm going to give you a bit of information now. So Sky Sports reckon that Liverpool have the second easiest run of fixtures after the international break. And that's what I was speaking about there with Dom and Milos. You know, understandably, they're going to be disappointed not qualifying for the World Cup or the playoffs, but we need them. We need them in a Liverpool shirt, and Dom has been incredible for us this season. So hopefully that continues. As I mentioned though, Sky Sports reckon that Liverpool have the second easiest run of games after the international break. The report states that only Manchester United have an easier run of games when the Premier League resumes. Liverpool will face teams in 19th, 18th and 4th in the Premier League, then 16th and 11th. So Nottingham Forest, West Ham, Sunderland, Leeds and Brighton in their first 5 games after the international break. They say, by contrast, Arsenal's fixture list is the 7th most difficult. They have Spurs, Chelsea, Brentford, Villa and Wolves in their next 5 games. So, you know, you do hope that we can start to build some confidence now and put some wins together. I'm not saying to push us back into a title race because, like I said, I don't think we've the right to talk about that yet. But if you can pick up 4 or 5 wins from those 5 games, go a long way to restoring some confidence. Putting my tin hat on, I'm a forgiven soul. I'd have Trent back. Look, for me, I could understand all of the thought processes of welcoming Trent back. It would have to be, for me, because I am a bit petty about this shit, It would have to be one hell of a come down and one hell of an apology and a I did the wrong thing type of scenario. But let's ask that. Let's genuinely ask this, because I think it's an interesting question. So, just straight up, would you take Trent back? Yes or no? So I don't think this is ever going to happen, by the way, for a whole host of reasons. One, obviously Madrid would want a huge transfer fee now, and there's no way that Liverpool are going to pay that after losing him for next to nothing. So it's not like he's even running down a contract and he could come back. So I don't think it's ever going to happen. But it is an interesting conversation, because one thing I think we'll all admit is, don't like the way he left, really angry about it, and it stung and it hurt. But we can see what we're missing, right? We can see a difference when he's not there. Let's be upfront and honest about that as well. We can see what he brought to the team. So, just for shits and giggles, nothing else, would you take Trent Alexander-Arnold back? And we'll leave that running for a while, and then we'll revisit. I guess context would be important in the situation, right? You know, somebody said in the chat there, I'd only take him back for 10 mil or no deal. I totally get that point. I do. I get where you're coming from, because, you know, you wouldn't want to lose a player. You wouldn't want to pull a Manchester United on it with Paul Pogba, would you? Lose a player for next to nothing and then pay, what was it, 80 odd million quid to bring him back in. Yeah, that would sting. That would sting. Ashley said, one, Slot would never take him back. Two, it sends out the wrong message to future players who think they can try and move to Madrid and come back. See, I don't know about the first part, mate. I mean, I've no idea whether he would or wouldn't. But on the second part, it's an interesting point you've raised, Ashley, because I don't think it would send the wrong message to other players, because Trent would be a very unique case in that he is a Scouser. So I don't think this would be the same as, let's say, let's say Alexis McAllister as an example, going to Madrid, it not working out, or him realising he's made the wrong decision and wanting to come back. I think it would be a different scenario, because, you know, he's a Scouser. But like I said, it's just an interesting thought exercise, really. Alex said, what if Trent runs down his contract in Real Madrid and comes back for free? You're talking about him doing that at 31 or 32. I don't know how long the contract he signed in Madrid was. I'd imagine it's 4, 5 or 6 years, obviously. So let's even say it's 4. Then you're talking about 31-year-old Trent coming back. So at that point, I don't know. I don't know at that point, you know. Will he stick it out there 4 years if he's not getting game time? Probably not. Tom Dooley said, I would love him back, but all other fans would not be very happy. Look, it's an interesting conversation, right? Because if we're being honest, you can see the difference on that right side when he's not there. Now, there's more factors involved in it than just Trent not being there, but you can see some of what we're missing. Now, to kind of bring this back around to maybe look into the future, watching Nathan Collins play today, again for Ireland, made me only underline my belief that he will more than good enough to come in and play in this Liverpool team. I don't know if many of you guys watched the Ireland game earlier on, but there were times Collins was pinging diags as if he was Virgil van Dijk, and they weren't isolated. Like, he really is decent with the ball. His leadership is unquestionable out there on the pitch. So, you know, I'm going to throw his name into the mix again for the centre-back search in the future, because I've been so impressed with Nathan Collins. He's been a leader all the way through his career. I don't know if it was Home Farm or what team he played for here in Ireland. Then he was obviously at Wolves, captain at a young age, and broke through at a young age, and now captaining at Brentford. So, you know, if there's ever a chance to get Nathan Collins, I wouldn't say no. I think he's a fine defender and better with the ball at his feet than I actually anticipated. So, let's give you some Ibrahim Konate stats, because we're going to have a conversation then about Konate's comments around his Liverpool future. And I wanted to get an input from you guys about what you think about them. So I'll give you some stats from the Anfield Agenda X account. Konate versus Azerbaijan. He made 71 out of 77 passes, 92%. Created one chance, had 87 touches, 5 out of 8 accurate long balls, final third passes 6, 2 tackles, 6 clearances, 6 recoveries, won 67% of his ground duels and 50% of his aerial duels. But on top of this, there were some comments from Ibrahim Konate that I wanted to just get your take on. So he was speaking about his future and his contract situation, and this is what the big man had to say. It's clear we think about it as players, the contract situation, but what's complicated is that we can't say everything because there's a lot of things being said in the media, and sometimes I see things and I'm like, oh my God, and it gets me into trouble with the Liverpool fans, even though they don't know all the ins and outs. Anyway, I hope and I know that in any case, the most important thing is that I'm happy. And then the question was, you might announce your future soon. And he said, we'll see. We will see. In any case, we hope so. So it's good to hear he's happy, right? But that doesn't mean he's going to sign a new deal or not. But it's one of the more upbeat things that I've heard from him. So I want to know what you guys take from that, or do you not take anything from it? Because it's been a couple of times over the last week or two, he's intimated that, you know, things maybe aren't as they're being portrayed in the media. And of course, lots of different things have been portrayed in the media around when the contract offers go, how long he's been thinking about it, whether it's been rejected or not. So, look, I thought that was a positive sign. Hearing him say that he's happy, you know, that's a good thing. He wouldn't word it like that if he was staying. He's definitely gone. See, my mind read it the other way. I guess this is, you know, interesting about our perception of these things. My mind actually read it the other way. To your good self, mate. Mine made me think, maybe he's staying. But this is why I wanted to have a chat about it, because it's really interesting. You know, you perceived it one way, Moosey. I perceived it another way. Or Mousy, excuse me. I perceived it another way. So, yeah, interesting. Rather him not sign, he's not good enough in my opinion. So, I understand that, David, but I look at it this way. If KONATE signed a new deal and we brought in Mark Gay, the competition for places would be top notch. And then you add in young Giovanni Leone when he comes back, you know, at the end of the season or the start of next season. And then you've got a good collection of centre-backs there. You know, Leone, let's say KONATE renews Virgil and Gay. That'd be brilliant. And if we wanted to go to a back three, we'd probably have to go out and bring in another one. But that to me would be a good outcome for this. Because one of the issues I've had is that there's no competition there, really. Now, I know I haven't mentioned Joe Gomez in this conversation because, honestly, I feel Joe Gomez will move on next summer. So I don't see him being here longer term. But we don't have competition at the minute, and that's why I keep saying I don't like it, because Mark Gay will certainly provide competition to Virgil and to Ibu. And it's one of my gripes with the position is we don't have that depth there to really push people. And it will be the same on the right-hand side of attack. Mark said, honestly, right now, we're carrying Salah to a point. Isak, we don't need to be carrying KONATE too. I get that perspective. For me, it's just better the devil you know. Better the devil you know, Mark, because, you know, KONATE's always had an air of inconsistency about him, but ultimately, I'd rather he stayed than didn't stay. And I've said this all the way through. If Liverpool can find an agreement that works for the club, keeps consistency of a player there, and then you bring in more players for competition, look, I would see that as a good thing. But of course, I do appreciate other viewpoints as well. Our best and worst player are coming back depressed. It is what it is. You know, it is what it is. You know, players, we've had it before. Salah came back, heartbroken, obviously, after Egypt lost the AFCON final, and didn't qualify for a World Cup previously as well. You know, it's part and parcel of, you know, international football. I know when it's their country, it hits hard. I totally understand that. But I trust they'll be able to compartmentalise that hurt and hopefully turn it into something positive for us. Stephen Draper said, if KONATE wants to leave, then sell him in January. Let's not have Trent number 2. Here's the question though, Stephen. Honestly, if you were KONATE, would you accept a sale in January in his shoes? Because I wouldn't, for 2 reasons. One, I wouldn't want to move halfway through a World Cup year. He captained France tonight. And two, you're going to throw away a load of dough. You know, for the club, yes, it would be better to receive money than not receive money. But for a player, it's quite rare inside the final 6 months that you'd agree to a sale, because, you know, you sit tight for 6 more months and you're going to get whatever that fee is into your pocket, not into the club's pocket. So I just don't think there's a realistic option for Liverpool to sell him in January. Does KONATE deserve a new contract? A very fair question at Silent. And I would say yes, but not at the level that has been mentioned previously. You know, I think, and again, I think KONATE is on somewhere around 85,000 a week now, I think. So let's say you said to me, Craig, does he deserve a contract to double his wages? I'd say yes. About 160, 170 grand, I feel comfortable with that. It's when you get 200 and above, I don't think he's there. I really don't. And I think he'll have another contract extension after this. So if he does get there, you know, the club will no doubt give it to him. And remember, in the future, then Virgil's wages would likely be off the books by the time KONATE's next renewal conversation comes around in 2.5, 3 years. So the club would probably have the scope then to look and think, right, has he developed into the leader that deserves this 250 type wage? That's where my head's at with it. I'd have no problem with him doubling his wages now, because I think he deserves to be in that bracket of players around 150 to 170. But I wouldn't be giving him 250 a week or anything like that. I just don't think he's earned it. Stephen said, not really, Craig, just posing the question. Thanks for your honest opinion. Great agenda as always. Always a pleasure, Stephen. And look, I'm always happy, mate, to disagree respectfully as we have done, or just have a different viewpoint even, mate, you know? Nothing wrong with that, and I really appreciate your positive input as well, my man. J Cliff, or JT Cliff, excuse me, said, Craig, KONATE will be no more than third choice. Definitely my favourite 11. We signed Gay in January, on his current form, not really worth more than 140. I think as fans, we think too much about starting 11s, right? Because we need to think about what happens if Verge is tired, KONATE is tired, or they get an injury. That's what we need to have this real quality and depth. And right now, it feels like Joe Gomez isn't in the manager's thought process, really, for pushing one of the two lads out. So this is why I'm saying having a Gay in there, that means you've got 3 class centre-backs and they need to fight it out for the starting position. Look at the impact on Dominic Soboslai's game that bringing in Florian Wirtz has had. And he said, I'm not giving up my position. And he has knuckled down for the fight. So, you know, I think competition just raises standards as well. What's Mark Gay's wages? I honestly don't know, dude. Adam, I don't have a clue, nor do I know what kind of wages he'd be looking for to come into Liverpool. But the club will know, you know, because obviously that would have been agreed beforehand. And now it may change. But I get the feeling we could see this move for Mark Gay happen in January. No inside information on it. I'm just kind of trying to read the room. And if you look at what Adam Wharton has said on Mark Gay, he said, it's probably just a case of when and where he goes. I hope he stays until the summer so we can have him for a bit longer. We'll have to see. So, yeah. You know, that and a couple of other reports that have said Liverpool are going to go all out to try to sign Mark Gay in January. I think we need to. And that would be my preference. If Mark Gay is willing to come in January and we can strike a deal with Palace, get it done, because we need him. And, you know, the pitch to Mark Gay there would be, dude, you can come in here and maybe have a chance at the Champions League by the end of the season. Hopefully, you know, that and the lure of playing for the Reds would get it done. Keane said he's on 50k a week at Palace. Woo! Well, I don't think I'd be speaking out of turn to say he could probably quadruple that or close to it coming to Liverpool. And if he comes in the summer on a free, he would be quadrupling that and probably more. Craig, the only way we have a chance at Elise next summer is if we win the Champions League. There's no other way. I totally understand that thought process, because I don't know where he's at with Bayern. They're doing really well. They're playing good football. They're in the conversation for the Champions League this year. And in my mind, I think it's more doubtful than probable that we have a chance to get Michael Elise. It really feels like we're edging towards the Semenyo conversation. And I understand that. Elise would be everyone's first choice in an ideal world. But he's a Bayern Munich player and he's looking good over there. And, he can probably still do another 4 years in Germany and get back to England if he wants to at some point. So, often with transfers, and we've said this so many times, it's about timing. It's about timing, the sliding door moments. And it doesn't feel like the timing of Salah maybe finishing up at Liverpool in 18 months' time versus Elise and his spell at Bayern Munich. It doesn't feel like those two will overlap, in my opinion, but let's wait and see. Mr. Star Craig, go on Troy Parrott, Koi Big. Oh, Danny, couldn't believe it. Could not believe it, mate. Honestly, still feels surreal, to think that they did it in the 96th minute. Now, look, playoff to go, as I said earlier on, but I've already seen the impact it's had on this beautiful little country of ours, and everybody's mood has been lifted. And it's what football does. Like I said, I remember Italia 90. Obviously remember USA 94. Remember Saipan, South Korea in 2002. And this little country of ours could do with the boost, the goodwill at the minute. So, fair play to the lads. It was just an incredible day. And hopefully they can back it up with the playoff. Tom Dooley said, we need to sign a Salah replacement before he gets too old, as nobody would want to sign him. Thoughts? Well, regardless of what happens with someone signing Salah, I think the first part of what you've said is right. Ideally for me, Tom, I'd like to see the Salah replacement brought in the summer, 1 year before his contract at Liverpool ends, and then start to ease him out. But I don't know if you've been with us, mate, for some of the streams this week, but I really feel now is the time that Liverpool need to look to the future and no longer think of the team being led by a Salah or a Virgil. I think Virgil's our captain. I don't mean it in that way, but I mean we don't build a team around Salah anymore. I think those days have to be gone now, and we start to look to build this team around Wirtz, Soboslai, Isak, Ekitike, the players in their early to mid-20s who still have 5, 6, 7 years. I just think it's the right thing to do now. Maybe it sounds harsh, but, you can't be nostalgic in football. Mo earned his new deal, but since he's gotten that new deal, between the change in personnel at Liverpool, the death of Diogo, he just hasn't looked his best. So that should be a natural transition process now for me. And of course, we have the time he's going to be at the AFCON to try to figure out how this looks. Hi Craig, Minta more realistic and great at pressing. So Minta's name's been linked, Drin. But I don't know, man. He just doesn't. It doesn't excite me, Minta. He just doesn't. I'd much rather a Semenyo than him personally. But he's definitely on the list, and he's definitely somebody who I am probably underrating a little bit. But it just doesn't strike me as exciting, Yakuba Minta. But as I said, I will also sit here and tell you it's not like I've watched him week in and week out religiously, and I can give you an opinion that's probably as valid as yours, who, you seem to know a lot more about him than me. Kyle said, if Saudi were to offer €100 million for Salah or £100 million for Salah in January, do we take that and splash for a replacement? I think an offer will come late December. Oh, God. Can we do that as the next poll question, Kyle? Can you remind me in about 15, 20 minutes to do that as the next poll question? Because it's a really good question, and I want a few minutes to think on my answer, mate, if that's okay. So just give me a nudge in a few minutes to remind me, and we'll put it up because it's a really good question. Craig, Salah had a stinker performance against Uzbekistan the other day. So I can only answer this, Mousy, in the same way I always answer it. And it sounds like I'm being rude to you, and I really don't mean it to be, but hand on heart, I don't give a fuck how they get on with their international teams. And I mean that about everybody. I wish them well with them, but how they play for their international teams doesn't bother me in the slightest. It only bothers me how they play for Liverpool. Salah has been rested before their second game. I think it was a friendly they were playing as well. And like I said, Mousy, that wasn't aimed at you, but it means nothing to me how they play for their countries. As long as they come back fit after an international break without an injury, I'm happy. Semenyo is a gunner. Are we a stepping stone? No, we're not. Now look, like I've said, players have clubs that they support, but it doesn't mean anything when it comes to their careers. You know, you've got to do what's best for your career in any given moment. And Semenyo, I don't know if he is on Arsenal's radar or not. I don't know if they need wide forwards or not. Spurs are in the mix. United are in the mix. I think Arsenal are somewhat in the mix. But I think for him and any player, it will come down to what the best move is for his career at that moment in time. So I wouldn't see us as a stepping stone though. No, like we're a bigger club than Arsenal. So Liverpool will never be a stepping stone to get to Arsenal, in my opinion, because Arsenal will never be anywhere near as big a club as Liverpool. And I don't mean that derogatory. It's a fact. Like it just is a fact. Arsenal are a very good club, a storied club, but they're not on the same ballpark as Liverpool. Right now, they're in a great moment as well with Arteta doing well there. But, 6 European Cups, it speaks for itself about who's the bigger club. $220 million in January. Who you spend? Who you buying? Really, it's your nose today. Sorry. Does that mean I'm going to have a fight with somebody? Or either that or my nostril hairs are growing back. One or the other. 220 million. Who am I buying? I wouldn't be spending it in January. In all honesty, I wouldn't, because we're already seeing that we're struggling to knit together the players who've come in. I don't want to throw more players at it. So one centre back in January for me is all I'm hoping for and expecting. And after that, I think the manager has enough for this season to do what he needs to do. Then maybe add in one or two more in the summer and build out the squad a little bit. But right now, as we've all seen, we're struggling to knit together the new players anyway. So, adding more into the mix in January just wouldn't seem clever to me outside of a centre-back, which we absolutely need. Alejandro said, Semenyo being a gunner doesn't mean anything. Eze was ready to go to Spurs. Arsenal, for some reason, woke up to the fact he's an Arsenal fan just about in time. So look, Carragher was an Evertonian. I don't know if Maka was an Evertonian, but I think he may have been. And look, there are players who play for clubs that support other clubs. It happens all the time. Like I said, I think when it's the career, if in an ideal world you got a chance to go play for the club you supported, cool. But, the stars have to align as well. And I just think there's a better chance he ends up at Liverpool, personally. Alejandro said, I don't want us to spend a fortune on Semenyo. If we were to pull the trigger, he isn't worth more than 45-50. I think he is. Realistically, mate, I think he is. I would say to buy Semenyo, you're probably talking the 60 to 70 million bracket, personally. But, whether that's good value or not, I guess will be down to two things. The club, what they value him at, and how well he does if he does come in. So, we're nearly at 1,000 votes in this poll. It's a hypothetical one, but the question that we asked is, would you take Trent back? And it kind of stems from an article that's coming out of Spain from El Nacional. And when we get to 1,000 votes, we'll knock it on the head. We're about 150 away. And the article said that Trent Alexander-Arnold is becoming increasingly uneasy about his situation at Real Madrid and feels that Xabi Alonso misled him with the assurances he gave during their during their initial talks this summer. So it kind of led us to have a hypothetical would you take Trent back question. Have you seen the podcast with Robbie Fowler? Actually felt sorry for him. He didn't realise how much he was forced out of the club. I haven't seen it, but I know the story about him leaving the club, mate. I remember when it happened at the time. And I felt sorry from then. I think, if I remember correctly, there was an argument with Phil Thompson as well. But one of the happiest moments I've had as well was when Rafa brought him back for that end of that season. I still think that was the thing that catapulted us towards a Champions League place, bringing Fowler back in. So, look, I love Robbie Fowler. He's my favourite Liverpool player of all time. Joel Bradley said, "Hi all," and Craig, it's with a C, dude. It's with a C. It's actually amazing how many people spell my name G or AIG. It happens more often than I ever would have thought. But either way, I am good, sir. Thank you. Semenyo was great, but overhyped, and frankly, not a Liverpool type signing. Well, it seems like the interest is sincere on Semenyo. Fabrizio Romano has said they, Liverpool, are following Antoine Semenyo's progress closely. That's for sure. So, I think there was a conversation in the summer about whether we'd make that move or not, and ultimately they felt they didn't want to block the pathway for Rio. But that argument's wearing a bit thin with me now because Rio's not getting game time. So, we blocked the pathway for somebody who obviously isn't ready, and that's okay, because I think most people would say he's probably not ready at that age week in, week out. But have we left ourselves short as well in the meantime? I think yes, is the honest answer. You've been called worse. I definitely have, dude. Biggie Mall, I definitely have, mate. Yeah, and by my wife as well. Alex said Liverpool should buy Antonio Nusa from Leipzig. Well, we know about him. I can tell you that much. After that, I wouldn't have a clue, mate. I wouldn't have a clue. But he's definitely a name that's come up in scouting reports and conversations I've seen people have. Worry about Semenyo being inconsistent, doesn't show up week in and week out. It's a tough conversation to have, that one, Jennifer, because, I find these the most difficult ones to spot, whether they'll work at Liverpool or not. You've got a player who is the guy at their club, but their club is a level below. And, I think that's fair to say about Bournemouth. So I struggle to know whether, he is a big fish in a small pond or whether he'd be able to step up to the likes of Liverpool. We've seen him play against us and be able to do it. And I would agree, in the sense I don't think he's prolific, with his goal tallies, but it would give us another dimension to our attack that I don't really think we have now, which is that direct running pace and power that I think we're missing from the front line. And for what it's worth as well, I would absolutely be happy. He wouldn't be my top. Elise would be my number one target. I've always said that, but I would be more than happy with Semenyo coming in. Yeah, I would. But why Semenyo is even close to world class? Why Semenyo? Well, a few reasons. One, Premier League proven. Two, relationships there with Richard Hughes. And three, we need somebody in that position. But is he world class? Well, the argument I put back to you is, give me a list of world class wingers that you think are attainable right now. Because honestly, I think there's slim pickings out there. If we're talking about who's actually attainable, because Elise isn't attainable right now. Nico Williams, I think people would still be divided over him. So that's where I'd be struggling with, who is out there for Liverpool. If it's not Semenyo, who else? Minta is a conversation, of course, but we'd sit here and I don't think anybody be calling Minta world class yet, because he isn't. He's not there. Rodrigo. Well, I like Rodrigo. I do. But he may be attainable. I'll give you that one. Elise is not attainable, Jason. They're not going to sell him, so we're wasting our time talking about him at the moment. Rodrigo's is a very interesting conversation, but I don't get the feeling he wants to leave Madrid. Now, he may have to if his minutes keep being limited, but the question I always ask when we talk about Madrid is, tell me the last time we bought a player from Real Madrid. We don't really do business. And if you're talking about the wages he'd want to come in on as well, I just don't think it stacks up as a Liverpool type of transfer. Big transfer fee, big wages. I just think Liverpool would probably look at that and think he's at his peak value now and probably too big of a wage. Semenyo coming in, and I don't know what he gets paid at Bournemouth with his new contract, but I'd be amazed if it's much more than 100 grand a week if it's that. So you could easily get him in and it be within a structure that would be reasonable. Craig, if you had to bet £100, does Trent regret his decision or not? So the honest answer is, I don't think he could give you an honest answer yet. Because you could say the same thing about Wirtz. And we've heard his father say no, he doesn't regret it. Because it hasn't gone exactly as everybody would have hoped from the start. And we have to say the same thing for Trent. He's a few months into his Madrid career. So I think maybe ask him at the end of the season, does he regret it? Right now, yes, I would probably say I'd edge to yes, he's regretting it. But I'd also say to you, it's probably gone exactly as I thought it was going to go from over there, and probably as many of you guys thought it was going to go from over there. It's no surprise to me. In fact, I told everybody relentlessly that as soon as Danny Carvajal got back fit, the Madrid fans would be calling for Danny Carvajal. They'd be screaming for him back onto the pitch. And that's exactly what happens. And I don't know if Trent was given bad advice. I don't know if, his ego maybe thought that he'd be able to win people over with his play or whatever. But it was always clear to me he was fighting an uphill battle to win the Madrid fans over because they absolutely idolise Carvajal. They love him. And as soon as he got back fit, I know Carvajal's older, but I knew he was going to be getting the place back because the fans love him to bits. Do I like Nico Williams? I very much do, Leo, yes. I very much do like Nico Williams. Again, the problem you have there is Bilbao pay their players a good salary because they don't have to pay transfer fees. So you're talking about Nico Williams, who I think's on like 250, 300,000 euro a week already at Athletic Club. Because, like I said, they don't pay transfer fees because they're bringing in players from that one particular region. So they tend to try to keep those players by paying them very competitive wages. We should go for Yamal. There's absolutely no chance on this planet that Lamine Yamal... One, he wouldn't suit Liverpool because he does... How do I say this politely? He's an incredible footballer, and it's a joy to watch him. But he's fond of the glamorous side of life, and I just don't think culturally that would work over in the Premier League. So not just at Liverpool. So yes, that and the absolutely astonishing fee it would take. It's never happening. I don't think you'll ever see Lamine Yamal leave Barcelona until maybe, mid-30s if he wants to try something else at that point. I think he's going to be there and he's going to be the next generation of Messi-type superstar at Barcelona. Everyone thought Ibe and Brewster would be massive stars, but they never made it, so it's hard to say. Exactly. I would have bet both of those guys would have made it. In fact, I've told you this story a few times, Summerpool. I remember being in the Aviva in Dublin watching Liverpool playing Celtic. And I remember turning to my wife and pointing at Jordan Ibe, who was just warming up and down on the sideline before the game, and saying, "This dude, he's going to be another Raheem Sterling. Like, he's got all the tools, power. He's just too good not to work." And unfortunately, it didn't work for Jordan Ibe. And with regards to Ryan Brewster, I'm quite adamant if he hadn't gone to Sheffield United, his career would have gone in a different direction, and he would have been more of a success story, than he has been. It always felt like a very odd move to go to Sheffield United. It really did feel like the wrong setup for him to go into. Bliss FE said, in my opinion, we need to focus on getting Wirtz and Isak running. Wirtz getting a bunch of assists and Isak getting some goals in. So I said something similar, mate, in that when Salah goes to the AFCON, it's absolutely the right time then for Liverpool to go all in on building the team around your Wirtz, your Isak, your Ekitikes, and we've got that 4 to 6 week window where there's going to be no flack in the media, there's going to be no conversation around Salah being dropped or whatever, because naturally he's not there. And I feel like this is the time Arne can start to look at what life would look like without Salah. And if it works, it's an interesting conversation. If it works when he comes back, because, you know, does he hold his nerve at that point and, you know, maybe stick with a formula that he's found some success with? I'd hope so. Right, let me check this poll and then I'll get the Corbyn Super Chat. Right, we've gone past 1,000 votes. So the question was, would you take Trent back? And 60% said no, 40% said yes. I would be a yes, but it would have to be under a particular set of circumstances. One, it would have to be for a very, very low fee. Two, it would involve Trent putting his hands up and saying he made a mistake and he wishes he could come home. That would be what it would take for me. Because ultimately we know what he brings to the team. We know what he's capable of doing. And in life, we all make mistakes. And if somebody puts their hands up and said, I made a mistake, I got this wrong, you know, I think we'd, as human beings, it would be salty of us to not accept somebody saying, I got it wrong. But if he didn't, and it was just a transfer fee and there was no, I don't regret it, Ratton, I'd probably feel different about it. Corbyn said, if Klopp went to City and Pep came to us, who would have won more in an alternate reality? City. Yeah, I think City, because I don't think we would have had the money to build what Pep would have wanted. And I think Klopp is a better man manager than Pep Guardiola. So, look, Guardiola is probably a better tactician and has a better footballing brain than Jurgen Klopp. But Klopp is one of the greatest motivators and man managers I've ever seen, ever. You know, and I think somebody from FSG said this before. You could take Klopp out of football and throw him into any industry, any factory, any company as a CEO, and he'd motivate the shit out of people, even if he didn't understand the business. He's just a leader. That's what he is. Right, so what was the poll I said I was going to do again? Somebody, yeah, I can't remember the poll, but I remember promising I'd do another poll. I just can't remember what it is. Something about 100 million, I think, if I remember correctly. Is it just me, or is Dom a better free kick taker than Trent? I honestly think he's a better footballer technically too. Is he a better free kick taker? Yes, I would say so. Salah, thank you, yeah. I would say he's a better free kick taker. Yeah, I would say so. I think he's just an incredible footballer, Dominic Szoboszlai. Really, just damn good. Right, so, thank you. Now I remember the poll. Thank you guys for reminding me. Right. Okay. So, if Saudi offered £100 million in January for Salah, would you accept it? Yes or no? And we'll revisit this one in a while. I think it's a very interesting question that was put in earlier on, and I'm intrigued to see what you guys think on it. Blizz FV said, do you think Arne will work out? Who's that? Me. Oh, could you grab us my inhaler there? I forgot to bring it onto the table. My wife's pulling an Izzy here, crawling across the floor. Thank you very much.
Well, I left both players in the room.
So, where was I going with this? So Blizz FV, and thank you, Sabrina, said, do you think Arne will work out? In my opinion, if he wants to stay and thrive, he has to change some of the ways, like starting Chiesa when he deserves it, giving Rio more playing time and being consistent. Do I think he will work out? Yes. Do I think he will give Chiesa more game time? Not voluntarily, no. That much I don't think he will do. He may do it a bit while he's at the AFCON, Salah, but when he comes back, I think Chiesa will be persona non grata again, because I feel that Arna's trying to prove a point there, that he was a player that maybe Arna didn't want in. And again, I am of course guessing at that, because how could I possibly know one way or the other? But I do think he'll work out. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Sorry, I was going back and forth because, there are certain things I do have concerns about that I've spoken, and his motivational skills being one of them, and his body language I don't like at times, and the most petty thing in the world, and I admit this, I hate that he wears navy. I don't know why, I can't stand that he wears navy during a match on the sidelines, but that's irrelevant to his managerial ability. But yeah, I do think he'll work out. Julian Ellis, welcome. And thank you, Julian. Welcome to Anfield Agenda Ultras. Really appreciate your support, my friend. Right, let's get into more news, because I have a lot more I wanted to go through. There is what Dave O.C. Cop called an exclusive, and he said Liverpool are to hold direct club talks with Crystal Palace over a potential move for Adam Wharton to join the Reds. Early days, and any transfer is expected to be next summer. Wharton is believed to be keen on a move to Anfield. Now, this is music to my ears, quite frankly. I think that would be perfect. Absolutely perfect if we could bring in Adam Wharton in the summer. I remember when I mentioned this in the video earlier, I made a point of jumping into the comments afterwards to see, what people were responding to. Some people said they'd prefer Elliot Anderson, and others asked the question, where would he play? And that, for me, is the interesting part of this, because would Adam Wharton play every single week? I don't know. I think it might be a case of what the manager wants in the middle of the park. For what it's worth, in football these days, I think two midfielders who don't really get too far forward is the sensible play. So in our system, I would like to see two deeper lying midfielders if he's stuck with the system and the way we play. I'd like to see the back four with two deeper lying players there, whether that's Wharton and Gravenberch, whether that's Wharton or Maka, whomever it is. And then that free spirit ahead of them, your Wirtz, your Szoboszlai, who gets to roam, who gets to pick up pockets of space. And Dom could play in the two as well, a little bit deeper. But I think the best teams have that balance, and I think that's what we need to do. Now, whether you turn that into a situation where you're going with a 3-5-2 and you've got your wing-backs in there, you've got your two defensive midfielders and your 10, again, I think that would work for us. But that's, that's where my head's at. So I would think it would be us looking for more solidity in the centre of the park. Max Marlowe beats, how are we, dude? Craig, love you, bro. Thank you. How much would 2013-14 Suarez be worth in today's market? Easily the best forward the Prem has had, if we're basing it off that season. Oh, dude, 150, maybe, million, if not more. One of the best individual seasons I can ever remember, and one of the most fun seasons of a player to watch as well. That 13-14 season, it was just ridiculous. Like, some of the goals he scored, just ridiculous. No other word for it. Yeah. So yeah, upwards of 150 anyway. Mark, how are we? Mark Verncombe said, Craig, Barcelona defender Pau Cubarsí is being looked at by a few scouts. Whether he'd be prized away from Barca, very good prospect. Yes, Barcelona, as we know, have a lot of good young players. The centre-back situation with them is an interesting one for the future. I don't know much about Cubarsí because I don't have the time to watch Barca as much anymore as I would have when I didn't have the channel. And I don't see as much Spanish football as I would have done in the past. Honestly, yeah. If you asked me these things when I didn't have a channel, I would have way more information on them because I watch Barca religiously. But I just don't have as much time now. And I think Liverpool need established here and now players, not potential, at centre-back. If we lose to Forest or West Ham, then Slot would have to pick them on merit. The 5 games we've got coming up, I'll read them back out again for people in case they missed the segment earlier on. But according to the statisticians at Sky, Liverpool have the second easiest run of fixtures coming up after the international break. United have the easiest, but Liverpool's fixtures are Nottingham Forest, West Ham, Sunderland, Leeds and Brighton. I'm going to come out and say nothing less than 13 points from 15 is acceptable. Nothing less. No excuses. No more it needs to gel together, anything. 13 points minimum from 15 is the goal here, if not 15 from 15. So if in this run, Arna loses 2 or 3 in a row, I think he's in trouble. I think he's in trouble because this should be a far more manageable period for Arna than maybe what we just went through. So he's got to show it here. We've got to see the signs that the team is turning because, we had a good win against Villa, a good win against Madrid, and just a shitty performance then against City. Mark Doherty said, Craig, I don't want to be disrespectful towards today's players, but do you think the standards of top quality players have dropped? I don't think there is many great players around these days. I'll go a different way at it, Mark, if I can answer it a different way. I think there are too many soft players these days where they haven't had to work hard enough to get to a level of wealth that they now attain as being a standard Premier League player. And I think there's too many players these days that are surrounded with yes men and women, people who just don't hold them accountable. So I think, I don't know about the standard, but certainly I think they're not as resilient as footballers of the past, and I think they're a little bit softer. That's just I probably made a mess of trying to explain that, but that's kind of what I'd be saying rather than the skill levels. It's hard to gauge because obviously fitness has improved, nutrition has improved, playing surfaces have improved, football boots have improved. So to look back on players of the past, I felt they had a lot more going against them, and they weren't getting paid anywhere near as much as the players these days. I do have a load of sympathy with the players for the workload they're being asked to do these days. I do think the football calendar is asking too much of them, and it leads to us, the fans, having a watered down product. I go back to that Champions League final, Inter Milan, Manchester City. That was probably the poorest quality Champions League final I can remember in a long time. Not because the players weren't good enough, they were fucking exhausted. They were exhausted from a season. And that should be the showpiece, the pinnacle of European football. And by the time it came around, everyone was just absolutely wiped. The Cop NTV said we've been spoiled with Ronaldo, Messi, Suarez era recently, and now they're gone. It feels like the quality has dropped off a cliff. Look, I don't know what an era that was, like you said, mate. Messi, Ronaldo, Suarez, and then you can even go down. You talk about your Pirlo's, that kind of ilk of player as well. Even what we would class as just below the very best players of that era were some of the incredible footballers. Absolutely unbelievable, like your Zidanes, your Gerrards, your Kakas, your Neymar when he was part of the MSN. Just the level was just fucking ridiculous. It's especially visible with big name players like Mbappe. That's kind of what I mean. Like, these guys are now coming into football, and when you get to a level of a Yamal, an Mbappe, a Cristiano Ronaldo, they're now looking to become billionaires from branding, and I think there's just too many distractions for footballers these days. The trappings of wealth are becoming a little bit too easily attained, I would say. And to hear that the Players Association are are pushing back against the idea of the anchoring, which is basically limiting what clubs can spend. I think there's too much greed in the game. There is. There's too much greed in the game, and I don't think it's sustainable forever. You know, the average Premier League wage, I think someone said the other day, is 60 odd grand, something like that a week. So if you're anyway decent, you're a multi-millionaire many times over, and I just think it's attained too easily. Now, of course, the path to get there is crazy, but I just don't like the money that's in football these days. It's like Ronaldo could be a billionaire. Messi, again, probably similar. From kicking a fucking football around a pitch. They haven't had to change the world. They haven't had to invent something that's changed society. They've kicked the football around the pitch, and their brands are worth so much money now. It's crazy. Does it look like Craig slipped the Starship Enterprise? I take it, yeah. I take it. We're going to get a second one of these chairs for the new studio as well. It does make players a lot less relatable. Yeah, really good question that. Or point, sorry. Really good point. Relatability is important because, you know, even when you're looking at a Carragher, let's say, and that era, you still kind of felt like you could relate to the working class mentality of a Jamie Carragher at that point in their careers. And, you know, you could pick multiple other players around that time as well. Yeah, in one generation, it's gone from footballers being somewhat relatable to absolutely not relatable. That's a very good point. I think there are so many footballers in the Premiership on stupid money. Would you propose a wage or oppose a wage cap? It's a tough situation, this, because what you don't want to see happen if the Premier League would impose a wage cap would be another league then sucking the talent out because they're willing to pay more. So whatever happens, I'd like to see it imposed across all of European football. So let's say the anchoring thing that's been spoken about at the minute, where, you know, Premier League clubs can only spend some percentage of the lowest team's TV revenue or something like that. Whatever is done would have to be a level playing field across Europe, or I don't think it's going to work. Now, every club can, of course, look to bring up how much money they make, how much money they bring in through other things like sponsorships, you know, corporate partnerships, match day revenue. But ultimately, I don't want the Premier League to have gotten to the top of the mountain and then become too clever about what they're trying to do and see a talent drain off to another league. When I was growing up, Serie A was the league where the money was. And, you know, you were seeing the players go there for their big paydays. Now it's the Prem. Yes, you've got Barcelona and Real Madrid, but the Premier League consistently just is where the money is. And I don't want that to stop. So the hypocrite in me wants both things. I want my cake and I want to eat it. I want to be related. I want footballers to be relatable, but I don't want the Premier League to have a talent drain. So it would have to be something that's right across the board. We were all treated to the 2000s when Real Madrid were signing Galacticos left, right, and centre. That's not remotely possible in 2025. Yeah, that's true as well. Let me say this: are you happy where football is at right now as a football fan? Putting aside our club and country allegiances, are you happy? Because I've got to say, I'm not. I am not happy with where football is these days. I think there's too much mystery, too much shenanigans behind the scenes. I look at the two governing bodies of European and world football, and I feel absolutely no trust there with those people that they have the best interest of the game at heart. You see some of the very questionable decisions of World Cups being awarded and, you know, peace trophies being invented. Yeah, I'm not happy with where football is these days as a football fan, and I think football has a huge issue with transparency that I don't like. I don't like that things can go to the likes of the Court of Arbitration for Sport, where it's all, you know, cloak and dagger stuff. Football needs to be transparent, especially when you're asking people to pay as much money as you are to watch it, to attend it, or to support their team with merchandise. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. A wage cap would just allow owners to milk more money out of the game. That's a very good point, Jennifer. That's a very good point. And honestly, mate, one I probably hadn't thought of yet. You know, because I'd say to you as well, Jennifer, I haven't given a lot of thought to a wage cap, but yeah, that's a very fair point as well. That they'd still probably charge as much for everything, and maybe it would increase profit margins for owners. Yeah, fair point. The hopeful guy said international break has us feeling awful. Well, I would have agreed with you up until today, dude. But as an Irishman, very proud today. And look, I feel I don't deserve this happiness because I'm not, a heart on my sleeve Irish international football fan. I'm very much drifted away over the last decade. But I know a lot of people who do still go to the Aviva, who travel away, who I'm happy that they're getting this moment today. And I'm happy. Look, I'm an Irishman. I'm happy. I'm over the moon. So yeah, I would have agreed with you up until today, mate. But today put a smile on my face. It's not often in the last decade Irish fans of football have had a lot to be happy about. Anthony said, my biggest disappointment in the game is state ownership. It was bad enough watching Chelsea manufacture success from the personal fortune of Abramovich, but state ownership is unacceptable. So I'm going to do a few minutes on this now, but I want to just start off the segment by speaking about the Roman Abramovich era. What really wound me up about the Roman Abramovich era was that I think for the 17 or 19 years that he was there at Chelsea, they lost something close to £700,000 a week. Every week, over averaged for his whole tenure. And then when they sold the club, that all kind of just seemed to vanish. If Roman Abramovich had ever called in the debt to Chelsea, that club probably would have went out of business. So that wound me up, that they could lose this money every week for such a prolonged period and not really ever be held to account for it. But bigger conversation, state ownership should absolutely not be allowed. For multiples of reasons, but to put it simplistically, there's two reasons. One, football should not be used as a tool to gloss over a country's questionable regime. And secondly, it's an unfair playing field because no matter who you're talking about, let's pull FSG into this conversation. To expect FSG in any way, shape or form to have the means to go and compete against a nation's wealth is impossible. Like imagine King Charles decided that he was going to go and buy let's pick a team. He was going to go and buy AC Milan, and he was going to put the wealth of the royal family and the English nation or the British Isles behind AC Milan. And he was determined that he was going to spend this money. No private business owner or fund could match that. Now, you've got your Elon Musks of this world who maybe could, but ultimately, it just becomes a pissing contest and a race to the bottom at that point. And I've said this the whole time we were talking about state ownership of football. People were talking about Qatar buying Liverpool. I don't want it. I never wanted it. It never should have been allowed. Saudi, the PIF, should never have been allowed to buy Newcastle. But they open that door now and the horse is bolted. And football will, some way, sometime, find this out the hard way. Shouldn't have happened. Should never have been allowed to happen. It's a piss take. How can anybody compete with a nation's wealth? It's impossible. And another thing I would say is a nation, and I don't mean this conversation to keep coming back to Saudi, because I've nothing against the Saudi people, but a nation can afford to lose money a lot longer than a private individual or a private business could. So I look at it as if it just becomes a pissing contest for the richest nations in the world. And that's not sport. That's not what sport's supposed to be about. I can't believe there was a point where Elon Musk was going to buy us at United. I never thought that was going to be true, to be honest with you. And I also, hand on heart, would not want Elon Musk buying Liverpool or any other Premier League club. The romantic in you wants two things. You either want the club to be solely owned by its fans, or you want a local businessman or woman who grew up loving the club, who went and did well in life and wants to give back into their community and buy the thing that they supported growing up. But the way football clubs are now, the days of local businessman or woman does good, buys football club, they're pretty much over with the valuation of clubs these days. Even romantically, if FSG put Liverpool up for sale tomorrow and gave first option for the fans to buy the club, you're never putting that money together. You're talking billions at this point. Billions. It's a shame. It's a shame because it would have been incredible if Liverpool could have been fan owned. His grandmother's from Liverpool. Oh, I know all of that, mate. I seen the interview with his dad as well. I just don't think he would have been the right owner for a football club based with socialist roots. To be honest, I don't. Right, so the poll. We've asked if Saudi offered £100 million in January for Mohamed Salah, would you accept it? Now, if you're coming in thinking, why is Craig wishing away Salah? I'm not. It was an idea somebody in the chat put in, and I thought it would make for an interesting poll question. Now, I haven't answered it yet, so I'm going to answer my side of it now. Would I take it? Yes, I would. I say that with a heavy heart, but I will only ever give you an honest answer. So yes, I would take £100 million in January for Mohamed Salah, and it would be a far easier decision. And I've said no to this in the past, by the way. 2 years ago, whenever this conversation was had in January, I said, no, don't take the money. Now I take the money. I take the money because I think it would allow the team to move past a sticky point right now, which is that balance between respect to a club legend and stubbornness of not having the ability to move past. So yeah, I would take the money in January now, and I would look to bring in somebody like a Semenyo and then a centre back, but it would be with a heavy heart. It's not because I don't think that Mo is good enough anymore or that his form is gone forever. I just think it would allow us now to move past the Salah era, which is becoming a very tricky time to navigate our path through this. Thoughts on pigeons? I fucking hate them. I hate them. And one of the reasons I hate them is I've got a neighbour who has pigeons and they're sound. Really lovely people. But the amount of shite that ends up on our cars is just ridiculous. So I don't like pigeons. Paul Driscoll said, should be Mo's choice. I think we owe him that if he wants to see the rest of his career out with us. Absolutely. And it is his choice. Ultimately, mate, it is his choice. But you know what shouldn't be his choice, Paul? Whether he plays week in or week out. So I'm 100% on board with you that his time to leave the club should be on his shoulders. But whether he plays week in or week out now, I think that we're gone past the stage where that's a certainty for me. I think he now needs to be as interchangeable as any other player. Mo deserves a huge send-off. Sell him at the end of the season. Look, how could I disagree with you on the send-off part? I mean, I think whatever send-off we give him probably won't be enough anyway, because what he's done for the club, what he's done for us fans, what he's delivered season on season on the pitch, I don't know how you adequately mark that and say goodbye. Whatever he gets is thoroughly deserved and more. Do you brush your teeth before breakfast or after? Well, I don't eat breakfast, so I guess that would if I did, I brush my teeth the second I get up. Second I get up, because I don't like the taste or the feeling in my mouth after a night's sleep. So I want to get rid of that immediately. So I brush my teeth. Even before having my coffee, I brush my teeth. So yeah, that would be the answer. Do you think there's much truth to the Semenya rumour, said Dan Parry? I don't know, Dan. But if I had to give you a yes or no, I'd say yes. Because look, we know we're interested in the player. I'm 100% on that, because so many, quality journalists have said that Liverpool at least pondered the question of whether to sign Semenya or not. And then you've got the likes of Romano saying Liverpool are monitoring his progress closely. So I'd have to say, yes, but I don't know whether there's going to be an offer in January or not. That, if you ask me for an answer on that, I'd probably say no. I don't think he's going to come in January. Do you pour the cereal then the milk, or the milk then the cereal? The cereal then the milk. Milk goes in on top of the cereal for me. The hopeful guy said Slot's afraid to continuously drop Salah. He'd done it for one game at most, then he's right back in the 11. I agree. But it must be a tough thing to do. This is one of the things I'm looking for from Arne Slot. Does he have a ruthless streak? Will he? So let's boil it down to the AFCON for a minute. Mo's off for 4 to 6 weeks. So there's no pressure on Arne now in the media or from fans to drop Salah, to not drop Salah. It's a simple equation now. No Salah, what do you do? So let's say we find a way when Salah's at the AFCON and the system starts to look better and the performances improve. Does the manager then have the balls to leave Mo out when he comes back if Mo doesn't fit into this new system seamlessly? That's going to tell me a lot about Arne. That's what I'm looking out for. Because if he does immediately just put him straight back into the team that had been flourishing, that's a worrying sign for me. And yeah, it would definitely cause me concern. I want a ruthless manager. Full stop. Whether it's Jurgen or anybody else, I want a ruthless manager who does what is best for the team and doesn't really concern himself with egos, reputation, or anything else. Just best 11, who deserves it, gets the shirt. If we sell Salah and buy Semenya, how much do we net? Well, it would absolutely, of course, depend on the fees. So yeah, impossible one to answer. You would say Semenya is probably going to be somewhere between 60 and 70, maybe 75, somewhere in that bracket, maybe. I am Splash said the managers are paid big bucks to make hard decisions. Salah is clearly holding the team back up front right now, so he has to either come off the bench as a super sub or sold in the summer. So I want to go back to something Anything Liverpool posted the other day, and I want to talk about two posts that they put up. The first post was from the Opta analyst, and it showed that they worded this as, what happens when your right winger is a passenger in the press? And then they run through the tackles and interceptions per 90 from Salah during his time at Liverpool. So in 22-23, he was averaging 0.73 tackles and interceptions per 90 minutes. In 23-24, he was averaging 0.68. And 24-25, 0.81. And this season so far, 0.37 tackles and interceptions per 90 minutes. But another stat that they showed is that 49.3% of the attacks against us come down the right-hand side. So they divide the pitch up into 3 segments, left, central and right. 25% of attacks come down the left-hand side, 25% of attacks come through the middle, and basically 50% come down the right-hand side. They also say, lots of replies saying Salah didn't defend last season and we won the league. And then they said last season 0.37 tackles and interceptions per game. Last season 0.81. So, but what got me about this post is and I want to be respectful saying this. As you know, I'm a huge advocate for the aggregator accounts on social media. Always have been, always will be. I think they do Liverpool fans a very good service, and I've nothing but respect for them. So I've bit my tongue on this for a while. But a few people have come up to me over the last while, a couple at our live show, a couple in emails, and a couple in the chat, that said that Anything Liverpool's YouTube channel had been criticising myself and anybody else who was calling out Arne Slot and performances not being good enough. But then they go and do that. So the point I'm trying to make is we're all allowed to be critical, and they're absolutely allowed to be critical, but don't get on your fucking high horse and start trying to talk down about other people for having an honest opinion and then go and do the same yourself and think you're not going to get called for it. That's the point I'd like to make on this, because like I've said, huge respect. I know the owner of that account, huge respect to them. But if you're going to talk shit about me, my channel, or other content creators, you know, keep your own house in order before having something to say about the rest of us. What are your thoughts on Norway qualification for the World Cup? Really happy for them. Yeah, really happy for them. Thoroughly deserving as well, you know, for the group that they had. Yeah, delighted for them. Well done. You know, don't want Ireland to get Italy in the playoffs. That would be a very difficult couple of legs. But yeah, well done to Norway and thoroughly deserved. Semenya would be the nearest to a Mane for us, said Paul Beer. Semenya on Elise is an option. That means we would need to sell someone like Maka. I don't know if Elise really is a realistic option at this particular moment in time. If he was an option, top of my list. But anyway, to get back to the point I was making about the Anything Liverpool post, that kind of ties into the show. Without doubt, we're being targeted on the right-hand side. And, you know, the point that they make, I agree with. I agree with it. We are carrying a passenger on that side. And, you know, saying it worked last season is irrelevant. If it's getting worse this season, I think the point that they're trying to make is absolutely spot on. And the manager can't not know this. He has to have that information at his fingertips. So what's he going to do to change it? You know, what's he going to do to change it? That's the interesting answer here, because we cannot be that open on the right-hand side. We cannot be that unbalanced. It's just going to lead to more and more silly goals given away. And, you know, it also leaves the likes of KONATE very exposed on that side. Itachi said, Semenyo and WHARTON plus Gay. Yes, yes, and yes. And absolutely, I would hope by the end of the summer, at least 2/3 of those are already Liverpool players. But I think they're all attainable. Did you watch Ireland qualify last minute? Well, we didn't qualify. We got to a playoff, but yes, I did watch it. Actual, you know, full disclosure, I thought it was a 5 o'clock game, and I switched on TV when I got up, and it was half time. So I only tuned in at half time, seeing we were losing 2-1, and then I didn't think we were going to get back into the game at 2-1, but genuinely when it got to 2-2, I felt like there was a real chance to get something, because you could see the anxiety creeping in. They had some chances as well. The game became very stretched, but it was very clear that Ireland got space in behind and that they were leaving gaps there. So I felt like there would at least be a chance for Ireland to get the winner. But by the time Troy Parrott stuck the ball in the net at 96th minute, I'd given up. I didn't think it was coming at that point. There was, I think Kenny had a shot saved. The Celtic player, John Kenny, I think he had a shot saved by the Hungarian keeper, and I thought that was the chance gone. But man, yeah, well, I'm just so happy for Ireland, because it means a lot to Irish people to get behind their sporting teams, and we haven't had a lot from a footballing perspective to get behind. And I know how loyal the proper Irish fans. I'm a fair weather fan for international football, without a doubt. But I know how loyal the people that go to the Aviva and travel around Europe and the world with Ireland are. So I'm happy for them. KONATE is gone. There must be a centre, said Stuart. Is he gone though? I don't know, mate. The comments from him earlier on kind of made me think that, and maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree here, but in an interview about his contract situation, he was asked, was it impacting him? And he said, it's clear we think about it, but what's complicated is that we can't say everything because there's a lot of things being said in the media, and sometimes I see things and I'm like, oh my God, and it gets me into trouble with the Liverpool fans, even though they don't know all the ins and outs. Anyway, I hope and I know that in any case, the most important thing is that I'm happy. You might announce your future soon was the next question, and he said, we'll see, we'll see. I hope so. So I took from that some positivity, but that's just the way I looked at that. I'm Armenian and a Liverpool fan. Had a rough time today. Yeah, mate, I know that feeling. It's not exactly been the greatest 10 years or so for Irish football fans, so I feel your pain, man. But hopefully the Reds can deliver us some positivity for the remainder of the season. So, a couple of things. If you can, hit that subscribe button for me. If you're new to the channel, welcome in. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm going to stay on, ladies and gents. I know we've been on 90 minutes already, but I want to keep chatting with you all. So if you're happy to stay around, I'm going to stay on for another 30 to 45 minutes, if everyone's up for that. I'm feeling full of energy and positivity today, so you know I'm going to sit on here. If you're happy to stay with me, let's keep talking. Exactly what Trent said. Did he? I don't remember him saying he was happy. In all honesty, I don't, because I would have probably tried to paint a positive picture if that was the case. Do you think KONATE's performances will improve if he signs a new contract? I think his performances will improve once he clarifies his future, one way or the other. Even if it isn't him staying, genuinely think once the players get this intrusive thought process out of their minds, whether stay or go, I think you'll see an improvement. Because let's say he decides he's going, then I think he's going to want to finish well with Liverpool, and I think he's going to want to play his way into some success before he leaves. And if he stays, same thing. I think he knows his future's resolved, and that'll settle him down more. What do you think about the use of AI in football these days? Depends what it's for. You know, you always want to lean on technology where possible to improve things, but like anything else, you don't want it to go too far in either way. There are certainly some things in AI that are going to improve all of our lives, football being one of them. The thing that I'm really intrigued with, and I had this conversation with a gentleman called Phil many years ago, who worked in the virtual reality and augmented reality space. And he put an idea that he was talking about, and it's something I'm absolutely astonished they haven't found a way to do yet in football, more than maybe it has been. So the idea was selling virtual season tickets. And imagine, he explained to me at the time that you would only need, let's say, 4 cameras in and around the Kop, or 4 cameras in the main stand, or whatever stand. So you give up 4 seats, let's say, from every stand. And you or I or anybody else could buy a season ticket, wear your virtual headset, hear the sounds of Anfield, see your left, see to your right, see the people that are around you. And it's unlimited how many season tickets they could sell. And I wonder if there will ever be a day that that can happen, or will it impinge on the TV company's revenue? Because if you're buying a season ticket in that way, you're obviously going around the rules of television subscriptions. But imagine that. Like, imagine you or I could buy a season ticket, a virtual season ticket to Liverpool, where we can be in the Kop, or we can be in the main stand, or, you know, we can hear to the right and left of us, or we can see in front of us. It would be incredible. And on top of that, he said, imagine that, Craig. And also you've got the All Red TV, the subscriptions that we have to watch the training and stuff. Now imagine that you have your VR headset on and the lads are in training and Salah sticks one in top bins. And then you get a little pop-up on your headset that says 10% off Salah merchandise at the minute, click here. There are so many really fun, cool things that I think could be done to enhance football fans' lives with technology. And that's one that I hope someday we get to a point where it's doable. And I also think the Premier League should eventually ditch all the television companies and just sell their own rights directly to consumers in the way like WWE does to some extent. You can just go in and watch every Premier League game, whatever game you want, via your subscription, have all the old games and the back catalogue and stuff like that. And I often wonder, like, what would you pay for that? As a fan, hand on heart, what would you pay every month to be able to watch every Premier League game, to watch, let's say some extra footage of your chosen team, and to have the ability to watch the back catalogue of all football matches and everything like that, and some extra Premier League content thrown in? Easily, I would pay 50 quid a month. Easily. Without blinking, I would pay 50 quid a month for that. Because I find with my TV subscription now, 80% of it I've no use for. Like I'll pay for Sky Sports, but I watch maybe 15% of the sport on there. So if I could have everything Premier League in one app, I'd easily pay 50 quid a month for that. And happily. It still wouldn't be the same as being there. Of course it wouldn't, Jennifer. But getting there is tough, right? You've got people like me, let's say, who only live in Ireland but still struggle to get to games because tickets are difficult. You've got people, let's say, in Australia or Japan or anywhere who may never have the money to come over to attend the Liverpool game. So, yeah, yes, being there, of course, is always going to be the best. But having the option to have a unique experience, I think that would appeal to a lot of people. Imagine sat there with a pair of goggles on though, but you'd be in your gaff. I know it would be, wouldn't be ideal, and certainly if you're watching football with other people, it would be a weird experience. But if you're just sitting at home in your living room and you can put on your goggles and watch the game, I don't think it'd be that weird. Leo said £50 all games, Prem, Italy, Spain, France, Champions League. I just don't think that's ever going to happen. And that definitely wasn't the conversation that we were having. £28 said Bon Chizzy would pay. So what would you pay? 30 said Alex. Daniel said, true, Craig, so many AI features that will come into football and remove human errors. How did you react when Parrott scored? I think I screamed out, fuck yeah, and then, like everybody else these days, wanted to see a replay to make sure there wasn't going to be a reason it was ruled out. So I think I celebrated more after I seen the first replay to know that it wasn't getting ruled out. 35 euro seems alright, I guess, at Tiernan. Yeah, I think that would be fair. I'd pay up to 50, like I said, because it would allow me to get rid of other stuff that I don't watch. So, right now, boxing as an example, I've just changed my subscription with DAZN to their, I don't know what they've called this new thing that they have now, but it's some like premium product where you pay $22.99 a month and there's no more pay-per-views. That includes any pay-per-views that they put on, and they put on a minimum of 12 pay-per-views a year. So I used to keep Sky and others because I like my boxing, but Sky don't really show boxing anymore. Their deal with Boxer ended. TNT Sports don't really have much either these days, so my boxing I can take care of with DAZN now most of the time. So if I had football, I'd probably get rid of Sky. I'd probably get rid of most of my Sky television and just keep the bare minimum, perhaps. Ewan said £40, I reckon. In Slovakia, we pay €12 for top 6 leagues and Europe. Ooh, wow, look at you. Wow. So, for me to watch the Premier League with Sky, have TNT Sports, have Premier Sport, have Prime, I want to take the broadband off it. About 150 quid a month is what we'd pay for our TV stuff. I think my broadband's about 50. So yeah, about 150 quid a month. And that doesn't include my Spanish DAZN account that we have for when the Reds aren't on terrestrial TV at 3 p.m. So yeah, football costs a lot of money, as you're well aware. Would you like Pacho at Liverpool? 100% would, mate. Yeah, love William Pacho at Liverpool, but it ain't going to happen. Paris, PSG love him, and understandably so. Harry said, £0. I'm fully reliant on a dodgy box. I hate them, mate. I hate them because they're so inconsistent. There's two reasons. One, I feel like your position in life probably dictates these things. And I'm in a position that I use football for content, and I feel it's incumbent on me to pay for that fairly. So I've never had a problem with paying for my subscriptions, especially when I'm making content. I know a lot of people who can't afford Sky Television and can't afford to watch football and stuff and do have dodgy boxes. I just find them very inconsistent, and it just pisses me off. I've rarely watched the full anything on one of those and it hasn't done something. And that's before you talk about the delay. Even when I had Sky streaming service and I had Sky Glass TV, I had to get rid of it because the watch-alongs were being ruined because I couldn't naturally react to things because I was getting spoilers in the chat. So we switched back to the Sky Dish. Miles said, I enjoy your interactive nature with us on the channel. Oh, mate, look, it's a joy. Honestly, it's such a pleasure to come on and chat with you guys every night about footy. I love it. And in one way, you panic when the numbers are quieter during the international break because you're thinking, channel's not doing great. But in another way, I get to know you a little bit more. And so there's definitely a positive to that as well. Did you hear how Dylan Dennis nearly started the crowd fight in the UFC? I did. I didn't see it, but my daughter's boyfriend said it to me today and told me what happened and that Dana White had said he'll never be getting near any of the UFC events again. And I don't blame him. Dylan Dennis is a bit of a mouthy fucker, isn't he? Let's be honest. As yield as possible for the left wing. I think he might be, I think he might be. There's been a few things about Keenan Yildiz recently that have suggested it could be possible to get him out of Turin. Whether we'd be interested or not, I don't know. But yes, I do think it's possible. Do you ever play FIFA and would you do Twitch? So I've done both of those things. I did stream a little bit on Twitch with FIFA, and then we put some of the highlights up on the Anfield Agenda channel. And I'm not trying to say this to big myself up, but people really did enjoy it. Now, they didn't enjoy it because it was any good. They enjoyed it because I think I approached the way I played it in a kind of unique way because I know fuck all about it. And I enjoyed some of the storyline parts, where you're going in to negotiate a new deal for a player. I tried to put a bit of a funny twist on that. That and my big sausage fingers kept hitting the wrong buttons and messing things up. But I didn't really enjoy as a game because I don't play computer games. It's not my thing. Kai said, I commented on the video yesterday and I think he misunderstood the comment was about Salah. So that's absolutely possible, mate. And if I did misunderstand it, my apologies. All I ever see, of course, are just words, so it's hard to know the intent and stuff behind them. But if I misinterpreted anything, which definitely happens, I apologise for that. Yildiz might want Madrid more because of Arda Güler, Craig. It would take a miracle to convince him. Yeah, but do Madrid want him? This is the question I would ask, and probably not. If Vinny Jr. disappears and they don't agree a new deal with him, then perhaps. Can you do FIFA again? I'd love to see it. I think the clips are still up on the channel. For what I can remember, I think the clips are still up on our YouTube. I mean, but no, I won't be doing it again. Like, no, I'm terrible at it. And yeah, I just don't have the time, really. I'm I'm 90% sure I'm going to do a food podcast. Pretty confident I'm going to do that in the future. I don't see my long-term future being in football content. I think I've got an expiration date in my football content. But I've been thinking about a particular way of approaching a food podcast / channel that I think I could make it entertaining in a very me kind of way. So that I'm thinking of, and I'm hoping we have a bit of extra space in the studio where I can set up a table for a little few bits and pieces I'd like to do. But I do think, put it this way, and I've said this before: if somebody came in tomorrow and said, "Right, Craig, we want to buy Craig and Connor, we want to buy Anfield Agenda," and we came to an agreement with them, and they said, "We want you to stay on for 3 years and then disappear," I'd do that. I'd take that tomorrow, because I think I've got a 3 to 5 year window left in this football content world. And then after that, I'd like to segue into something else that I'm also passionate about, which of course is food for me, as it's quite clear. But I think I can do it in a unique way. So yeah, basically, if anybody wants to buy the channel, just hit me and Connor up, and I'm willing to stay on for 3 years and then say goodbye. But there's two things I want to achieve left in this. One, I want to become the most subscribed to Liverpool football channel. We are the most watched, but we're not the most subscribed to. I want that to happen. I'd like to get to 1 million subscribers. That would be incredible. But I also want an exit strategy for my family that, secures our financial future somewhat. Do a boxing channel. I wouldn't do it justice. I wouldn't do it justice, because there are content creators around boxing that are far better placed than me to do it, and that are, that do the hard yards up and down the UK and, traveling around. And I'm not built for that. I'm not built for a lot of traveling and stuff like that. It's just not me. Craig, in the new studio, will you do watch-alongs more with Connor, as he's really good and I like his dry sense of humour? More with Connor, yes. Watch-alongs, no. And I've always said this, I'm selfish. I like that relationship with you and I to be a solo thing for certain content. But yeah, there will be times where Connor be there, like we're putting 2 chairs, 2 microphones. It'll be set up for 2 people, but most of the time it's going to be me, because, like I said, selfishly, I love the relationship and the respect we've all built up. So I don't want to share that with anybody. But I'm glad you're enjoying what Connor's doing, because I'm really proud of him as well. Cooking with Craig would be amazing. No, again, it wouldn't be cooking. That's not the angle I'd be going down. It's like I said, I'd have a unique way of doing the thing I'm wanting to do, but it wouldn't involve cooking. Will I ever go on the pain game with True Geordie? If he asked me, I would. I mean, like I said, I've nothing but time and respect for Brian. He's only ever treated me very well whenever I've done anything with him. He's always been incredibly welcoming, incredibly friendly. And yeah, if he were stuck and they asked me to go on to cover one of the events with them or something, absolutely I'd do it. It'd be a pleasure. I was actually hoping I would hear from him at some point about that, but haven't thus far. But yes, I would happily do that, because I love boxing. Do you prefer these kind of sessions or the watch along? The watch along, because they're where I'm at my most emotional, and when the adrenaline's pumping. These are just cool, fun chats, which I really appreciate and I enjoy, but the watch-alongs are when a watch-along goes well and I finish it, it is some mad adrenaline that I can't quite put my finger on. I often say to my wife, like, I feel like I've taken drugs or something at that point because, yeah, if it goes good and the numbers are good and I feel like I've done you guys justice, it feels really cool. You backed me weak as a kitten from the off. Making weight and hydration took its toll too much. Should stick to his weight, but that kind of is his weight. That's what kind of gets me with this. Like, Eubank is a 160 to 168 fighter. The rehydration clause, fair enough. But I think, personally, and to be fair to Chris Eubank Jr. took that loss like a gentleman. And I've the height of respect for the way he dealt with it. Absolute gentleman on it. But I don't like it being used as an excuse. Because it wasn't used as an excuse in the first fight when he won. And yes, he was drained for that and he had to go to hospital afterwards. But he won it. So I don't think it's fair to Conor to talk about Chris Eubank being weight drained for this fight. And I love the way Chris didn't use that as an excuse. So fair play to him on that one. But, you know, honestly, I felt Conor Benn was going to win that fight one way or the other. Any new picks of the studio? No, nothing new. I've kind of semi-distracted the builders a little bit with another side project at the house that's getting done, so we've seen that in the bad weather. No, we haven't really had much of a chance to progress too far on the studio. Parra is an Irish legend, much better finisher than any of the centre forwards in Liverpool since Suarez. Well, he's doing really well with AZ Alkmaar as well. I wonder if Spurs fans feel that they let one go there, because of course, you know, he never really broke through properly at Spurs, and now he's over in the Netherlands, and I think he scored 14 or 16 or something this season so far. Right, let's check our poll, where we asked, if Saudi offered £100 million in January for Mohamed Salah, would you accept it? And 82% of over 1,100 people that voted, 82% said yes, that you would accept it. That's really interesting. Now, I want to ask one more question before we finish up as a poll. We've got about 25 minutes to go. So, we asked this the other day, and I want to see if we get a similar answer again. Do you want, and I put want in all capitals because I don't mean think or hope, do you want KONATE to sign a new deal? Yes or no? I do, and I've said this over and over again. I won't lose any sleep if he doesn't, but I would prefer he signed a new deal, yes. So for me, it's a yes. Where is the studio? It's out my back. Yeah, it's in my back. Well, I say it's in my back garden. It pretty much is the back garden at this point. But yeah, it's in my back garden. Which kind of makes the idea of me buying this house far more, I would say likely, but yeah, I got to get my finger out and buy this house in the next year. I still can't. I'm genuinely shocked at the result of that poll. I didn't think it would be that high for the Salah one. And look, I agree. I said I'd take it in January. Mark said, Craig, I think Liverpool should test the waters for Gay in January, but what do you think is a realistic fee, considering he'll only have around 6 months left? So what do I consider a realistic fee? 15 million. What do I think Palace would want? 25. Ultimately, I think however Liverpool were to attain Mark A in January, it would be better than us not doing it. So even at 25 million, I would still say we should do it, because yes, you can play the game that you will get him cheaper or free in the summer. But I guess, what would the impact of him coming in and doing well be financially? How would you measure that if, you know, we won a Champions League, let's say, or we moved a couple of league positions higher than maybe we would have. A lot of hypotheticals in there, and some immeasurables, but I think either way, I would say yes. Anything 25 million and lower, do it in January, because we need it. And also, you got to get to a number there that would make it worth Palace's while to sell in January as well, because they might look at 15 million and think we'll keep him a few league positions and he's worth that to us. It's simple. Does he want to stay? Yes or no? Get Gay a VVD replacement anyway in January. Can't rely on Gomez and Leone, who's seriously injured. I think Gomez is going to go next summer. That's my gut feeling on it. Whatever happens, I think he'll go next summer. Pedro said, Craig, congrats for Ireland. That was epic. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, look, it felt really good today as an Irish person. It just felt great, but it's only a playoff, so I very much do hope that they can get over the line, because the credit unions in this country will be hit up for some amount of loans. Whenever Ireland qualify for an international tournament, the old credit unions get hammered for loans from Irish people. Is Gay's size a worry? Smaller than Ibu? It was always a concern in any conversations, Jennifer, that I had with people about Mark Gay. But those conversations were about 18 months to 2 years ago. And I think as a footballer, he's progressed and shown his class more and more, that I think the height issue becomes slightly less of an issue. But it's still worth a conversation. Because he is, 6 foot? Somewhere like that. So yes, probably 3 or 4 inches shorter than you would ideally want with a centre-back. But look, he's just a damn good player. So for me, it's less of a concern than it would have been 2 years ago. Paul said, I would pay 25 million for sure. Don't think the club will, though. Yeah, I really don't know what to expect on that front, mate. Some outlets you're looking at thinking Liverpool are going to go all out from in January. Others think Liverpool will play the waiting game till the end of the season. So let me run through pretty much all the news I have for you in one go now, for people who may be coming in late. So Dean Jones of ESPN said, Liverpool targeting Elise. He's not a very realistic target. I don't think there is any way that Bayern will sell him. The only way it would really open up would be if Elise was unhappy and pushing for such a move, which I don't understand that to be the case at all. Then Adam Morton had something to say about Mark Gay's future. He said, it's probably just a case of when and where he goes. I hope he stays until the summer so we can have him for a bit longer. We'll have to see. Next up, the quotes from Ibrahim KONATE himself on his contract situation. He said, it's clear we think about it, but what's complicated is that we can't say everything because there's a lot of things being said in the media. And sometimes I see things and I'm like, oh my God, it gets me into trouble with the Liverpool fans, even though they don't know all the ins and outs. Anyway, I hope and I know that in any case, the most important thing is that I'm happy. You might announce your future soon, was the next question. And he said, we'll see. In any case, we hope so. Then we had Fabrizio Romano saying that Liverpool have offered Dominic Szoboszlai a new deal. Let's wait and see how talks go. Dave O.C. Kopp said, exclusive, Liverpool are to hold direct club talks with Crystal Palace over a potential move for Adam Wharton to join Liverpool. Early days and any transfer is expected to be next summer. Wharton is believed to be keen on a move to Anfield. Also, Romano, who said the Liverpool are following Antoine Semenyo's progress closely, that's for sure. Then we spoke about the report coming out of Spain from El Nacional that said Trent Alexander-Arnold is becoming increasingly uneasy about the situation at Real Madrid and feels that Xabi Alonso misled him with the assurances he gave during their initial talks in the summer. Then there was Sky Sports who were saying that Liverpool have the second easiest run of fixtures after the international break. The report says only Manchester United have a technically easier run. Liverpool will play Forest, West Ham, Sunderland, Leeds and Brighton. And then they look at Arsenal's fixtures where they have Spurs, Chelsea, Brentford, Villa and Wolves. Then we had the stats from KONATE's appearance versus Azerbaijan, which was 71 out of 77 accurate passes, one big chance created, 87 touches, 5 out of 8 long balls successful. Final third passes 6, tackles 2, clearances 6, recovery 6, ground duels 2 out of 3, and aerial duels 2 out of 4. So that's pretty much where we're at with all the news today. The two big points, I guess, are the Adam Wharton talk between the two clubs, or they're scheduled to take place. Obviously, then the Dominic Szoboszlai contract extension and Liverpool keeping tabs on Semenyo. Maybe you could call your cooking channel Anfield Agenda. It's a good name, to be fair, mate. It's a good name. But no, it'll be nothing to do with. It might just be food agenda, to be honest. It could be something that simple. But yeah, we'll wait and see. I like the idea of the whole agenda being a brand. You know, food agenda, football agenda, I don't know, bollocks agenda, whatever. Petter, congrats on Ireland's result. Who do you think will win the World Cup? Spain would be my guess at this moment in time. Argentina, you can never rule out. I'm thinking that the temperature and the heat is going to be an important factor over there in the USA in the summer. I know it's in Canada and Mexico as well. So yeah, I'm thinking a nation that's used to the temperatures and the heat. So Spain, maybe Argentina. I don't really think there's too much. Like Brazil, I don't think have a chance. England, of course, they have a chance, but I think they're going to be the ones that are impacted most by the climate and some of the temperatures and heat over there. You've seen it during the Club World Cup. A lot of the Chelsea players openly talking about some of the struggles for the weather and acclimatising to it. I think that will... If this World Cup was in Europe, as an example, I think England would be top 3 favourites easily and justifiably. But because it's over there in the summer, I just don't see it. I think England are right up there as some of the best European contenders, but I don't know. If they can get past the climate, maybe. Billy Beckner said, we were all screaming at Trent that he would regret his move to Madrid. Can't say we didn't warn him. Yeah, fair. But I would also say this to just try and give balance to that conversation. I've spent the last couple of weeks saying it's unfair for people to judge Wirtz. So I think it's also unfair to write off Trent at this point because it's not been long enough. And he probably is going to need the guts of a season to settle in to Spanish football. So one way or the other, I don't think it would be fair to say it's been a failure or a success. Paulo said Argentina, my bet. Colombia tipped to get semis. Oh, I've got my jersey already. Unashamed fanboy jersey. One sec. Yeah, so I've got me. Yeah, there you go. I've nailed my colours to the mast already for the World Cup. With my Argentina shirts, partly because it's Messi's last World Cup, and partly because I'm an absolute Messi fanboy. So yeah, I'm going to be, unless Ireland are there, of course. You know, if Ireland don't qualify, I'll be Argentina all the way, same as I was in the last World Cup. Will Ireland qualify? It depends who we get in the playoffs. Better, you know. Outside of Italy, you know, I'd take our chances against most of the other opponents. Italy, though, yeah, we'd be underdogs going into that one for sure. It's such a clean kit, won't lie. Oh, look, it's gorgeous, isn't it? Look at it. It's absolutely incredible. It's a beautiful, beautiful shirt. And with the black shorts as well. I don't have the shorts, obviously, but yeah, it's a gorgeous kit. I bought my son the same one. Craig, I remember Jack Charlton arguing with the ref for the water. Do you remember John Aldridge, USA 94, screaming at the linesman as well? That's probably the moment I fell in love with John Aldridge, when I seen him giving the linesman absolute dog's abuse at that point in that game against Mexico. I still love Aldo for that to this day. Do you think Julian Alvarez will ever return to the Prem? Said Leo. There was a report the other day, Leo, that I spoke about that said, and I'm going to get it up here so I can read it out to you. 1 second, sir. Where is it? Yeah, hit this one. So there was a report in Spain that said Chelsea are preparing a blockbuster £132 million bid to sign Julian Alvarez from Atletico Madrid next summer. I'm not going to lie, mate. If they got Julian Alvarez, that would worry me. Because Chelsea are assembling a very, very good team. You've seen Caicedo coming to the fore. You know, Palmer, if he can get past his injuries, you throw Julian Alvarez into that mix as well. That's that would worry me. Did I miss your super chat, Joey? My apologies, sir. My apologies, mate. Oh, there was a couple I missed. Sorry. Yeah, there's a couple I have to get to. Joey said, Mo is doing his job. Like Keane said, you're saying I'm great for doing my job. It's ridiculous. He needs to play well to keep his place. End of story. I agree. No argument for me on that one, Joey. Like any other player, if you're not doing what you're capable of, you should be held accountable for it. Sorry for missing that, by the way, Joey. And Owen Mulhern said, Ireland won against Hungary, but Dominic Szoboszlai was the best player. Feel so sorry for him, even as an Irish person. I said the same earlier on, Owen. He was, maybe try Parrott aside for the hat-trick. He was certainly the most technically gifted player on that football pitch and the best player on that football pitch. But it's unfortunate for them. It is what it is. At least from a Liverpool perspective, we know himself and Kirkes will be able to have a proper rest this summer. But I'm sure they'd much rather be going and playing for the countries at the World Cup. Or the country, at the World Cup. Leo said, thanks for the update. I'm a real fan of Alvarez. So am I, Leo. I said in the summer he was top of my shopping list if Liverpool could have got him in. Look, I'm really happy with the players we did, but I'm a huge fan of Julian Alvarez, and I thought he would have been a better fit for us than Isak. And I'm not going to try to rewrite that. I still feel that way. But I love Isak. Very happy we have him. But my number one target would have been Alvarez because I think he'd be a natural fit for us. Jason Curry said, Craig, big question. 1 million subscribers, Adidas reckoning, or 1 hour interview with Klopp. When you mean reckoning, you mean I have to pick one of those. So Adidas, 1 million subscribers, Adidas sponsoring, or 1 hour interview with Klopp. Easy. 1 million subscribers. Easy. Hands down. 100%. Easy. I'm a really insecure person. So the idea of 1 million people subscribing to a channel that I host, that would give me confidence in the rest of my life. That, to be fair, I've gotten a lot into this point already, a lot of confidence from the support I have, but easily it's 1 million subscribers, without any hesitation. That's the one thing I think is out of my reach in this industry, is the 1 million subscribers. But if I am to come up short, I'm going to go down swinging. Have you seen the new Kenny Dalglish documentary on Amazon Prime? It's on my watch list. I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but read very good things about it. I think it's from the same gentleman that did the Senna documentary. I really hope you get the rights to games like Goldbridge has. So, how do I say this without becoming a bit of a dick? Delighted that he got them. Delighted that our industry is being thought of so highly now that people like Brent are able to get the rights. But for me, the Bundesliga rights I wouldn't have any interest in them because I don't watch Bundesliga. I know that that's football, it makes sense for them, but even at that, I wouldn't have taken the rights because I just don't. Yeah, just doesn't make sense to me. So I'm delighted that he got them. I'm delighted for the industry, but it wouldn't be something that would have appealed to me personally. But if it was Premier League stuff, Jesus, of course, yeah, I would love it. Jason said I was playing at your heartstrings, so now stay for 10 years, you'll get it. I don't know if I'd ever get it, mate. Honestly, I don't think I have enough corporate or mainstream backing to ever get to 1 million subscribers. If you look at the ones who have made it, they all have far more better relationships than I do with brands, TV companies, agencies. I have none of those things. I don't have an agent. I don't have a manager. We don't have any relationship with TV companies, radio stations, magazines, newspapers, brands. So yeah, everything we've done, we've had to do organically, which I'm really proud of. But yeah, I'd fucking love it. I'd love it. I'd love 1 million subscribers. I would. I'd love it. I'm not gonna. I don't even give a shit about the financial side of it. I would just love that gold plaque. Because I think it's a crime that Liverpool don't have 1 million subscriber channel, because we're too big of a club with too good of a fan base not to have one. And I'm not saying it should necessarily be me, but God, I wish somebody could do it. I wish we got one. I'd love an agent as well, or a manager. God, I'd love an agent or a manager, just to help us build these relationships. Because I've so many things I'd love to do, but I don't have the time to chase them down, or I don't have the connections to make these things happen. So I'd love for a manager or an agent to come in to help us out. Who would you want most in January? Semenyo, Gay, or WHARTON? Gay, 100%, because I think that's what we need in January, a centre-back Spency. If you want to go to the summer, and probably still Mark A, actually, yeah. Probably still Mark A, mate. Paul said, I was lucky enough to see Kenny Dalglish play. He was unbelievable, such a fast brain. Yeah, I was. I just got the end of Kenny's managerial time, actually. Never got to really see him play. How do you think Liverpool will perform after the international break? I'm glad we're at home, because usually after these international breaks, my memory is that we don't come back and play very well. So, last time we lost to United after the international break and we looked flat. So I hope we can get the win against Forest. Now, I may not be able to do the watch along on Saturday, because it's scheduled that my electricity's out until 5 p.m. that day. So the very worst case scenario, I'll be able to do the match reaction, and Connor will do the watch along. So yeah, unless they change it or something, I won't be able to do it. But fingers crossed for me that it's on, because I'd love to be able to do it. And I hate missing them, but it's not in my control, unfortunately. Hopefully you can get 500k before 2027. Is that realistic? Yeah, I think that's realistic. I would say that's realistic, mate. Yeah. It'd be a big year. It would have to be a big year with a few big moments, but 500k is not unachievable by the end of 2027. Or sorry, by the end of 2026. Connor seems to be enjoying making videos and talking to the camera a lot more. Yeah, look, I never had any doubt he'd be good at it. Like you said, he's got a good sense of humor. He's a very intelligent, articulate fella. So yeah, but I don't mean this to sound it's I'm the front of camera guy. So he has his video in the morning, but I'm the front of camera guy, and that ain't changing. I've actually been lucky with the ballot, and I'm going to the Forest game with my daughter. Nice, Jonathan. That's class. Congrats to you and the daughter, mate. Yeah, lovely. I was fortunate enough to be able to bring my daughter to one Liverpool game. We beat Sunderland. I think it was 2-1, if I remember right. And brought her over, God, it must be 8-9 years ago now. Blizz said, Craig, do you think Slot will change the formation and starters after the break? The two positions I think are up for debate with him are left wing and left back. So whether he goes back to Gakpo or he sticks Wirtz out there again, and then same with Robbo and Kirkes, they're the only two things that I can think of. Formation wise, no, I don't think I'm expecting a formation change yet. But like Ben Spochak said, if the 21s were playing with a back three, maybe we are looking to that in the future, but it could have just been a personnel thing for that game as well. If the rate of the subs continued as they are, how would it take to get to 1 million? Oh, as they are? Oh, Jesus. 8 years, maybe? 8 more years? 7 or 8 more years, something like that. This is a random question, but what was your reaction like when the beach ball goal happened? Anger. Absolute furious anger that it wasn't stopped. Like, how was that allowed to happen? The ball literally hit another object. It was insane to me that goal stood. I couldn't believe it. That is one of the moments that really put me onto despising and believing that some referees really do have it in for us. That was one of my big moments of losing a bit of respect for referees. Because still to this day, I look at that and I think, how on earth was that allowed to stand? It's just nonsense. So, here's a question. Do you guys think we'll ever hit 1 million subscribers? Genuinely. Because I think, let's say I have 5 years to go. 5 years left, max, on this channel, making football content, in my opinion. So will we do it in 5 years? It's not impossible. It's not impossible, but I'm not arrogant enough to say yes. I think it's possible, but it'll take some luck. And by the way, feel free to say no. I won't take any insult from it whatsoever. I don't think 1 mil will ever happen, but I'm happy to be proven wrong. I don't think it will either, David. I think it's possible, but I don't think it's likely. So don't take any insult from that, mate, at all. Jason said 5 years, 750. If I got to 750 in 5 years, I think I'd find it very hard to stop at 750. I think I'd look at that and think 750 are probably 2 years away from pushing that and getting there, and it might make me hang around that 2 years. Like, I do often underestimate the reach that the channel has. Like, I often hear from people who said I was talking to somebody in X or Y and they watched the channel. Like, I still think nobody watches in my head. Shane, how are we, dude? What a win today. Come on, you boys in green. It's unbelievable, Shane, mate. Unbelievable. I was trying to explain it earlier on. It really means... It means so much to our country when the football team does well. Like, the whole country gets a lift from it. And I'm not saying we're unique in that, but because we're such a small little country, you can see it straight away. But the rate increases as you get bigger. Yes, that's true. Absolutely. There is a snowballing effect. Just the Mr. Beeson asked for a shout out. So honestly, I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want that because they're artificial. You'd end up having a channel with, let's say, 1 million subscribers, but the views wouldn't justify the 1 million subscribers, and it would feel very hollow in that case. Craig, have you ever nearly quit due to a lack of views? No. I've nearly quit because of a few other reasons, but never because of numbers. No, never. I nearly quit because I felt hated, and I nearly quit because I thought I was despised by people in the city of Liverpool. There was a time where I felt like I was getting so much abuse, I'd never be able to turn it around. But never because of views or numbers, no. Because I didn't come into it with an expectation on that front. I just came into it to give it a go. The channel gets more popular by the month. Look at streams a year ago and then now. Oh, look, 100%. Our views over the last year, in every metric, whatever way you look at it, the channel has outperformed. And we've been fortunate enough that every year we've gotten bigger. Our views have gotten bigger. Our subscribers have improved. Very lucky. Never stagnated yet as a channel. So really, really fortunate in that regard. JT Cliff said, Craig, I actually think you'll go on longer than you think. Phil, the new studio will give you a new lease of life when you officially get in there, as it will give you separate home and work life. That's what I'm hoping for. That's certainly the main driver of the studio. It's not because I want a bougier space. It is that work life distance. Like when I'm not streaming, I'm sitting 10 feet away from where I work. And the whole time you're just looking at your workstation and you don't switch off, you know. So I'm hoping that the one thing I didn't want to do was have a studio that wasn't near my house, because I've seen lots of other content creators have studios and they can't react to things quickly because their studio is a few miles away from their house, or they have to get in their car and head off and do stuff. Whereas I've always wanted to be able to react like that. It's really important to be out quickly with stuff. So that's why I was adamant that I needed the studio space to be near me. Why do you think you've only got a few years left on the channel? It's really demanding. It occupies a very big space in my life, time-wise, mentally, physically. It takes a lot to do it as consistently as we can. And there are times where it's very tough, like when you're getting threats against your family, when you're getting threats against shows you're doing at venues, when you're seeing people threatening to rape your son. Mentally it can be very difficult. I've had posts saying we're going to hang you from Lime Street lampposts outside the train station. It can be incredibly mentally difficult, and I'm insecure at the best of times, so sometimes it really, really gets to me. Like the racism stuff that came up over the last month, that was the closest I've ever come to I don't even want to say it out loud, but it was a low I've never felt before in anything. Even after losing my parents, I've never felt like this before, because it spoke to what makes me as a person, and for people to think that I was capable of that cut deep. And yeah, I nearly didn't get out of that. I really didn't. Yeah, that was tough. How much preparation do you have to do before the streams? Hours. Like, I finish this stream, I'll read all day. You try to find your stories. You try to gauge opinion by looking at other forums. You watch football as well to see. You're not doing that. You're answering emails. Or you're trying to sort out the business side of it. So you're going with the accountant and you're doing all these other things. It's a lot. And we're, like I said, there's only a handful of us that work for the channel, so we try to manage everything as best as we can. Craig Coffee in Wexford. Yeah, nearly bought a coffee van once in the last couple of years. Because remember I said to you my daughter couldn't find a job. Oh, well, I nearly wanted to just invent a job for her, so I nearly bought a coffee truck a few years ago. Who's winning the World Cup, said Yasir. I'm going to say Argentina. I think you'll reach 1 million, but it'll probably be based on how successful Liverpool do for trophies. United stand doesn't deserve over 1 million, as your streams are more engaging. So one thing I will always say is the amount of subscribers any channel has doesn't immediately translate to them being the best or the worst. There are people who make content that are better than me that will never get the subscribers we have. And without any hesitation, I would tell you I think I'm better than the United stand. Without any hesitation. And that's not to be disrespectful, because they've achieved something I won't achieve. But I don't, honestly, I've never felt this way, think that it's a reflection on anyone's talent, the numbers that they get. Because there are more that goes along with that than doesn't. So there are some, oh, I'm going to get myself in trouble here. If I had some of the access that some of the other Liverpool content creators have and did the numbers they did, I'd be embarrassed. I'd be embarrassed, because if I had an interview with Kenny Dalglish, it's going to smash the internet. It just is. And I've seen others have it and they get like 30,000 views of it. I think that's yeah, I'd hang it up at that point. I would. But when I said I think I'm better than the United stand, I think you have to think that way. Because if you don't back yourself, because I would say, you ask Goldbridge, he'll tell you 100 times I'm better than Craig, and he'd believe every word of it. You have to be that way. You have to be competitive. It's healthy. Because if you're not competitive, you're not going to get anywhere in this. You know, for me, the biggest challenge was the chasing down people, you know, getting bit by bit closer and closer and closer. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because I'm a competitive person. More proud of views or subscribers? Views. That's a really good question. I think you're the first person, Aaron, that ever asked me that. I'm more proud of the views because we've always punched above our weight for our views versus the subscribers that we have. I follow you and Adam, but that's my personal preference. Adam as in Adam for FUTV, lovely fella. Glad to have played a little part in his adaptation to going out on his own. You know, we helped Adam get set up at the start. And he's a lovely, really, really knowledgeable dude as well. Like, knows his footy really well, and very good in front of the camera. Jason said, 10 years more, this community won't be the same. We don't want to go anywhere else. Look, did me and Goldbridge fall out? Yes, we did. We did. You know, water under the bridge and all that stuff. But we used to do stuff. We used to be friends. We used to do stuff together. On, you know, I was on That's Football for a little bit. And it was a shame. It was a shame, like, because honestly, as successful as he's been, I think if me and him had have kept working together, egos aside, I don't think anybody would have been able to compete with it. Because I think the banter and the presence that we would have had would have just smashed anything. But fair play. Like, I don't get on with the lad, but he worked his ass off to get what he has. I'll always, like, there are a lot of things I don't like about him, but I'll never begrudge him his success because he's worked his arse off to get there and ground it out like everybody else, and fair play. You're spot on there, mate. I've done watch-alongs with both you and him, and it's not even a competition. Mark has to shout at camera and moves around too much. You keep doing your thing. I think it's my Irishness. I've often said this. I think the fact that I grew up in Ireland gave me a level of banter that I don't think would come as naturally to some other people. And I credit that to my mates growing up. And, you know, anybody who's Irish will tell you, we absolutely destroy those closest to us with conversation. Like, we rinse them. It's part of who we are. So I think that really helped when I started to do this, is that the gift of the gab is something I think a lot of us Irish people are blessed with. As you already said today, was a huge boost to the country, especially after the tragic road accident in County Louth. Oh, I was looking at that earlier on, Shane. 5 beautiful young souls gone in an accident, man. And I have a daughter that age, like, and she's out driving, passed her test, and yeah, man, a lot of people won't have a clue what we're talking about here, Shane, but So sad. So sad. Leo said, "You're a nice person, Craig. You love the banter, but also respect other fans' views." Look, I'm not. I'm far from perfect, mate. I am very temperamental. Definitely, I can jump down people's throats at times when they don't deserve it. But how do I say this? Again, every time I say something, I don't want it to be interpreted as I'm trying to shit on anybody else, because that's what I'm not trying to do. But if I could, if someone said, "What would you want most from what you do?" It would be, I hope people that watch feel I care and feel that they're important or they're acknowledged. That's it. That's the number one thing. I hope that you feel I represent you fairly and as well as I can, and that I'm a transparently honest person. And if the answer to that's yes, then happy. You know, if the answer to that is yes, then I'm very, very fucking happy, because that's what I started this for. Community, friendship, loneliness, and to share the ups and downs of this football club that we all love. Right, so do you want KONATE to sign a new deal? It's very close. We've 2 minutes to go on the stream, so if you haven't answered yet, please do. What a marathon stream it's been, by the way. 2.5 hours. I've loved every minute of it, so thank you so much. But 57% said yes, they want KONATE to sign the new deal, and 43% said no. I'm in the yes. Getting rinsed with banter shows an Irish person likes you. Definitely, Keen. Definitely. Like, I am most vicious to my kids and my wife from a banter perspective. Like, I'm never more proud than when Lucas rinses me and absolutely just kills me with a sentence. Like, so yeah, I agree. Look, whatever I've said tonight about anything or anyone, genuinely, I'm happy for everyone in this industry that does well. Whether it be Goldbridge, whether it be Robbie, whether it be Redman, whether it be the Anfield Rap, whether it be anyone. I'm fucking delighted for every single one of them, because they're living their dream, and I'm so happy for them. All of them. Whether I know them or not, I'm incredibly proud to be part of this industry. I'm incredibly proud to be a small part of fan content. And I'm incredibly grateful for the people who came before us that allowed us to get to this point. You know, without AFTV, without Goldbridge, without Red Men, I wouldn't be here. It's as simple as that. So any disagreements I have with them, I always respect their work. And I respect what they've done to make a pathway for the likes of me to come in and do it. So whatever else I ever do say, know that I always do respect the hustle of everybody else. Right. I'm going to go get some food. I'll talk to you soon. Appreciate you. I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Thank you for a lovely, fun stream tonight. I've really enjoyed it. And yeah, have a nice weekend. Talk to you soon.